Something massive is happening this week. In fact, it could happen as soon as this video gets released or maybe even tomorrow. If this event happens, it could send the price of Bitcoin skyrocketing toward $150,000 or even more. I know that a lot of you are looking for a market pullback, but you need to watch this video. You need to pay attention to what's going on in the market exactly, because if this event happens, you better not be sleeping. Guys, I'm going to break this down for you. The news that was released recently, the odds that all the major institutions are putting in for this major event to happen in this video. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Kyle Chassé. Subscribe to the channel. I've been here for 11 years. I'm bringing you all the alpha on this channel, all the information that I know as it's breaking every single day, the hottest things that you need to know to prepare for the upcoming bull run and how to maximize your profit from it. Also, like the video, it would mean a lot to me, and let's get into it. So the first thing we're gonna do is watch this video on Michael Saylor's tweet, which says the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF will mark a crucial inflection point in history of Bitcoin's adoption. So we want to watch the whole thing, but
Bitcoin, as you might know, coming off of its best day in quite a while on hopes that the streets first Bitcoin ETF could get approved, and soon Bob Pisani is focusing on all things crypto today, Bob.
Yeah, Gary Gensler's got to make some very important decisions on this. So what's next here? The ball is now in the SEC's court. A lot depends on whether SEC Chair Gary Gensler wants to fold or fight to the end. The SEC has several choices to make. The first one, the most important thing, is whether the SEC wants to appeal the case. The regulator has 45 days to make that decision. An appeal is possible, but the harsh tone of the judicial ruling certainly makes it more difficult for the SEC to appeal. Now, if they appeal, the order would be stayed until there is a decision on the appeal. But there are at least 8 other applicants for a Bitcoin ETF that may have to be given a thumbs up or down in that period. The first of the applicants to file was ARK. They filed back in May. So the SEC has a maximum time of 240 days to approve or deny those applications, including ARK, which was the first one. So the first deadline would be January 10th of 2024. If they decide not to appeal, they could go along with the court ruling and approve all or some of the 9 applications.
that is the hard deadline, is January of 2024. However, tomorrow we have the first deadline where they need to actually approve, deny, or extend. Now, most people think that there's going to be an extension here. However, we're going to go into some tweets here in a minute, and some of the analysts from Bloomberg of what percentage they give of this passing tomorrow, by the end of the year, and certainly by next year. So SEC's first deadline to approve 7 Bitcoin ETFs is coming over this next week. The investment firm Bitwise will learn if its ETF will win SEC's approval on September 1st, while Blackrock, VanEck, Fidelity, Invesco, and WisdomTree will all be awaiting the SEC's decision for their funds by September 2nd, according to several SEC filings. Meanwhile, Valkyrie is set to hear back from the SEC on September 4th. So guys, you just have to pay attention. I mean, this space is crazy. Things happen when you wouldn't believe it. And you better have the finger on the trigger, because once this thing happens, I mean, a lot of you might be waiting to enter the market. And I always say DCAing, or dollar cost averaging, is the best strategy here. But ask yourself a question right now. You know, if let's say that you want to put some money into Bitcoin right now and it's at $27,000, right? And you think it's going to come back down to $20,000. And so that's where you're looking for your buy-in point. Well, you could be asleep and we get all of a sudden all these ETFs approved, and the price instantly, without even the institutions getting on the phone, and we'll go into how this is going to grow enormously in just a bit. But just that announcement alone could pump the price 100% in Bitcoin or even more. So would you feel horrible if you could have got it $27,000 and you're waiting for your $20,000 entry, but then you woke up and the price of Bitcoin was now at all-time highs, $50,000, $60,000. That's the point I want you to think about. You don't have a whole lot of time. I mean, you might have time to decide, right? But potentially this could happen any minute. So Selka says, Brian Selka says, reminder, Bitwise ETF application could be approved tomorrow if the SEC decides to pivot following the unanimous grayscale ruling. So one of the things that we saw in the video was that, you know, they could appeal, but it was such harsh words from the judge saying that, like, this is absolutely outrageous why you're not allowing these Bitcoin ETFs to pass. stop being ridiculous and allow these things to exist. So this is James. He is the Bloomberg analyst that I was just talking about. And this is really, really bullish, guys. A lot of people were asking yesterday. Eric is the other analyst. They're the analyst in the ETF department at Bloomberg. Eric and I have moved to 75% for 2023 launch of Spot Bitcoin ETF. And we think it's almost a done deal, and we will have one launch by the end of 2024. I think they put that at a 95%. So 75% odds is very, very good that something happens this year. And these deadlines, it's likely that the SEC will decide. They don't have to decide on these dates that are deadlines for them. They could do it anytime in between. But there's a good chance, and there's a possibility, I don't know about a good chance, most people believe the consensus is that it will get delayed. But you have to wonder, because Gary Gensler alone is just one man standing in the way of this happening. There's got to be a bigger plan behind all these massive institutions that in aggregate control $20 trillion plus in value, just waiting to make money on this opportunity. This is a new asset class. They can make money on this, and so will all their associates. And we'll get into that in just a second. So Woo Blockchain says the US SEC needs to make a decision on the Bitwise Bitcoin ETP Trust and the Spot Bitcoin ETF applications Blackrock, VanEck, WisdomTree, and Invesco around September 1st. So I just want to show you how big BlackRock's AUM is, right? It's 9.43 trillion. This is old. I believe now it's more around $12 trillion. So imagine just a small percentage of that. I think if less than 1% of BlackRock's AUM comes into the Bitcoin market, that would buy up all the Bitcoin that's circulating, that's on exchanges right now. And that would send the price absolutely enormous. We would see the supply shock that we're talking about. People would go absolutely crazy. Not only would the buy pressure go up from actual demand from people who want to get in and own it as an asset class, but then of course speculators and everything else would come in as well. Altcoins would start pumping. That would increase the entire market capitalization of crypto. And we'll get into just what Bitcoin did for gold, BlackRock did for gold in just a minute. But I want to show you one ridiculous perspective here, because there are some naysayers out there. The Bitcoin ETF, if approved, might be like the famous Bitcoin ATMs. People were excited at the time. It was going to make adoption easier, but there was little to no demand to use it. If institutions want to buy Bitcoin, they would have bought it by now. An ETF doesn't suddenly make them buy. I would say this is one of the most ridiculous and ludicrous statements ever. Bitcoin ATMs were set up for retail. At the moment, right now, retail doesn't have a lot of money. And not only that, that's it really. Retail, the aggregate value of which retail can come into the market is tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of these $20+ trillion by US asset managers that are now just drooling at the mouth, waiting to come into the market. So this statement is absolutely ludicrous. Plus, it's not easy for institutions to come in right now. Michael Saylor said himself that for him to set up his company, for them to enable them to buy Bitcoin, they had to hire tons and tons of lawyers, spend tens of millions of dollars of doing it. And so it wasn't easy for institutions to come in. This is just a ludicrous statement. So now we're going to go into this. One reason why Satoshi Flipper says, and this is something that we've been covering on this channel here for the past week or so, drilling it through so you get it into your head. I know for a fact people are underestimating the impact of all these Bitcoin spot ETFs are going to have on our crypto Bitcoin ecosystems. The ETF are going to make buying Bitcoin easier and more accessible for USA masses and especially institutions, i.e. increase in demand. They are all physically backed ETFs. Therefore, when you buy one Bitcoin worth of ETF, they must purchase one actual Bitcoin from the market. All these Wall Street firms are about to unleash massive budgets for marketing these Bitcoin ETFs because they're all going to compete with each other for business. It's going to be insane, right? This is what we've been saying. Like, all of these institutions will be competing, and they're going to have the best salespeople in the world that are paying massive salaries to and massive commissions, shilling Bitcoin to all of their customers who have given them their money to manage. And we'll get into that in just a second here. So let's look at what Bitcoin lessons to learn from gold spot ETF journey. So you can see that this is this chart right here. There we go. So this chart right here shows Bitcoin when the first spot gold ETF was created. You can see the price of gold was sitting around $350. And after the ETF, you can see all this institutional money that came in, shooting it up to 1,914. That's over that's about 6.5x from there. That would put Bitcoin, over $150,000 from here. And I think that's just the beginning. They actually took gold from $1 trillion to $13 trillion market cap. And you can see that here in Adam Cochran's tweet. So let's go through this thread real quick. It's a really good thread. One last bullish BlackRock tweet to round out this weekend. People don't realize BlackRock really made the gold market as we know it today. Pre-BlackRock, it was $1 trillion market. Now it's $13 trillion. So how did they do it? BlackRock has an army of advisors around the world who receive commission for pushing their products. And while they've got a lot of brands for their funds, they're the most known for iShares, which offers 3 of the 5 largest gold ETFs in the world. BlackRock has the tools to let advisors earn 3% advisory fee on the products they sell, as well as to add on custom advisory fees. Depending on the jurisdiction of the offering and advisor, they can also be trailing fees. So this is what I've been saying. If you guys have been watching this channel, subscribed, just massive upside for their advisors because this is a revenue stream for BlackRock and all of the salespeople underneath it. So advisors are eager to push products to get commission on new asset classes, begin to tell boomers that gold was a perfect component to round out a portfolio and hedge against inflation and other risks. So while much of the global demand for gold is still purpose-driven for jewelry and tech and things like that, this push grew through investment sector of demand to almost 25%, which led to second-order effect, increasing the amount of gold central banks were buying. Because people valued gold, central banks in turn valued gold and rapidly increased demand for it, all driven from this push. Gold had exchange-traded products prior to this. In fact, as far back as 1961, there was a gold ETF in Canada, and there is Bitcoin ETFs in other countries right now. And State Street launched their SPDR gold ETF in 2004, which is the largest of all gold ETFs. But BlackRock, through the Army advisors, pushed a narrative that gave the gold broader legitimacy in a portfolio. Its network told millions of users that you needed gold to have a well-balanced financial safety net. After doing this for 2 decades, we now find that young wealth managers and economists who have climbed the seats in central banks and sovereign wealth funds view the gold as portfolio safety narrative as a no-brainer. The same will hold true for crypto. We have existing non-US ETFs and US ETPs. BlackRock will arm advisors to educate millions of consumers on allocating a certain percentage of their portfolio to crypto and change the narrative entirely. Then, as the dollar declines, a new generation of wealth managers and bankers and economists who grew up in the digital era ascend to the chairs of central banks. Where do you think they will turn to for the reserves? What will they invest in the future of their country in? Great thread by Adam Cochran, guys. And this is just to round it out. Vivek Ramaswamy saying that the Grayscale winning its lawsuit against the SEC clears a path for Bitcoin to keep innovation in the United States. Guys, all in all, extremely bullish for Bitcoin. I hope that you're paying attention. I just wanted to bring this to you today because you need to pay attention. Don't listen to everybody. I mean, we might have a huge correction, right? Possibly we might. But the fact is that there's a 75% chance by Bloomberg analysts that this Bitcoin ETF passes this year, and 100% basically certainty that it will pass by next year. I have my bags packed, ready for the rocket ship to take off. I hope that you guys do too. I'll catch you guys on the next video.